That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Let's go ahead and move on to the trade this week, which is Black Panther: The Bride. This is the most DC Marvel trade I've ever read. That's a weird thing to say, but just everything about this feels like what you would normally see in a DC story, where you got like all the characters from the universe all coming together for just like kind of a really normal thing, but they're all in costumes, so it just feels a little weird. I know both companies do it. It's just DC seems to have better branding on that. Like, I could imagine the Avengers getting together to play a game of baseball, but if I saw the Justice League playing a game of baseball together, I would just buy it so much faster, you know? So what's going on here is T'Challa is works up the courage in the early parts of this issue to seek out Aurora, who he has a history with, and propose to her. So he explained their history together and why he left her, because he didn't feel that he was focusing on what was important, which was avenging his father's death. Man. So like, we get this whole thing of Black Panther and Aurora talking, and they've got this history together where it's like things didn't quite go well, and like he just left her on her own. And he explains, I had to. I was young, I was rash, and I didn't feel like I was doing what I needed to. But now I've done that. I'm king now. I'm responsible now, and I want you to be my wife. And so he proposes to her. And she doesn't say yes, which I quite like. She doesn't say yes right away. She's like, I need to think about it. So they defeat a bad guy together called the Arabian Knight, who's like funded by Saddam Hussein. This is an early 2000s book. This is so an early 2000s book. Look at that. Saddam Hussein makes his own supervillain, the Arabian Knight. So anyway, they take him out together. And she's like, I will consider what you have said. I'll go back to Wakanda with you and consider it. And so they re-enter Wakanda, and people are worried about Storm. And yeah, they're just, doing their thing together. Trying to decide what their life will be like together. I really, really love this scene between Storm and T'Challa's mother. Mother, this is my dear friend, Princess Aurora Monroe of Kenya. Pleased to meet you. Pleased? Finally, I've been hearing about you for 10 years. Let's take a walk. I know he hurt you, but that boy never stopped loving you. It may be hard for you to believe, but I know my son. It means a lot to hear it from you. When I sent him off to find a wife, I prayed he could convince you to come back. My son never lets me down. If we've never met, why do you think your son and I should be married? Wakanda is a warrior culture. It takes a strong woman to lead and breed these strong men. And here you are, a princess, a street tough, a warrior on a galactic scale. I have followed your adventures closely. You are a hero worthy of my son. There's only one outstanding question. Do you love my son, enough to change your life to be with him forever? And I like that conversation. I like the way that she's talking and thinking about her son. This again has a problem related to the way in which it is treating women, though, particularly for her, where it doesn't really seem she's entertaining the possibility of a female Black Panther. She sees Storm as, and any potential wife for T'Challa, as a means for breeding. And when you talk about monarchy, that is kind of the underlying subtext of continuing the regime through all weddings. But what she likes about Storm isn't her heritage or what she brings to the table as far as finances or land. It's her strength of character of being a hero. And she thinks that will be good for her son and for her people. And so that I find interesting. It's a complicated kind of thing. I think the main criticism I will keep throwing at this book is that it has a fairly narrow view of women, but it does a lot of other stuff really, really well. It does geopolitics really well. It does African culture and the Black experience really well. It captures elements of those really well. And so the end of the second issue is her saying, yes, she will marry T'Challa. And then the rest of the book is pretty much just the world going, holy shit, Black Panther and Storm about to get married. This is huge. And it is, because he invites all the Avengers, every leader of the world shows up for this. It's like this big, proper royal wedding, which is kind of funny. And there's just all this build up to it, and they're dealing with all this craziness and stuff. Quincy Jones makes a cameo, which is kind of funny. There's just like a lot of pomp and circumstance, and like they go and they find Storm's like birth family and invite them, and they have to take out Hydra agents to do it. So you still get a little bit of action in the book. And they explain a lot of what's going on, and there's tension building because like there's security personnel talking about like what this will mean. Let me see if I can find that, because I thought it was a really good sequence. I don't like the way Storm is drawn in that panel. Just real quick note. I do not like the way Storm is drawn in this panel. Storm with like the bob cut doesn't work. There's also some neat stuff where we get like T'Challa and Storm's relationship. So like I will say, yeah, again, the problem I have with this run so far is that the role of women is very questionable. I feel that Hudlin's still writing T'Challa and Storm's relationship is very natural and enjoyable, and I could totally see why these two are crazy about each other. So I really like that. Apparently, every time they have sex, there's like thunderstorms, which is pretty funny. Man, where's that page at? They ask T'Challa if he wants to have a bachelor party. He says no initially, but then Storm talks him into doing it because she's going to go out with her friends anyway. So they go to Rio, and they're, beautiful women strippers everywhere, and they all throw themselves at T'Challa, and he's like, no, I'm not interested. What's the line he used? Because I really did like this. All right, hold on. I got to go back and find it. It was in a previous scene. All right, here we go. They're all trying to convince him to go to the bachelor party. He's like, I understand and respect what you're saying, and I'm right there with you. I'm just saying forever is a long time. The window is closing rapidly, my man. T'Challa says, the wedding is a ceremony to celebrate a commitment I've already made in my heart. I'm already married. I like that. That's good, and it shows that like he's respectful towards women, even if everybody's like talking around women as like objects. What this book really needs is more time spent with T'Challa's sister. I feel like she is a good character to get a window into, to show a more complex view of women and the role a woman should have in the world. Because so far that is again been my biggest problem. Anyway, I like that they go to Rio and they see all the strippers and they all like throw themselves at T'Challa, and he's like, no thanks, you guys have fun, I guess. Everyone say hi to Haley in the background. And Danny's like, would you close the door, please? Thank you. Anyway, there's some just funny random action that happens and all that stuff. It's whatever. BET's covering T'Challa's wedding. Hudlin couldn't help himself but to insert that. Xavier shows up. I guess he was like dead at the time. And then like everyone was talking about the fact that Cap and Tony are like staring each other down on this. This was coming out around the same time that like the build up to Civil War was happening, or maybe while Civil War was going on to begin with. And so Cap and Steve see each other and immediately start getting ready to fight. And Black Panther tries to cool the situation down, but they each decide to separately leave and say, sorry, I couldn't stay. And Black Panther's reaction is like, well, that went well. I love the idea that George W. Bush and Fidel Castro show up for the same wedding. The Watcher shows up, which is kind of interesting. The Watcher shows up to watch the wedding happen. And then the ceremony begins. T'Challa enters with a cool backflip out of the Panther's mouth. And then Storm enters in what is honestly a really, really cool design for a wedding dress. There's like a whole featurette in the back of this that talks about all the thought they put into her wedding dress, which is really neat. Red Leader says, why did Uatu show up? Because it's a major cosmic event that Storm and Black Panther are getting married. They all sit there and wonder, is like someone going to die? It's like, no, it's just a major cosmic event that they're getting married. It's also interesting because it's a Wakandan royal ceremony. And in order to become the Black Panther, you not only have to win the contest, but you have to approach the Panther God in the spirit realm and be approved. And the ceremony for a wedding is the bride has to also be approved by the Panther God. Let's see if I can find T'Challa explain it, because it's actually kind of funny. But like Storm's obviously just, kind of nervous about that whole situation. The ritual is a central tenet of the Panther cult. It is one of the reasons we have remained strong over the centuries. Would you want me to resign my title of king over this? Does it scare you? She says, nothing scares me. But understand if, and I mean if, I were not to pass the Panther God's test, I would want you to resign and be with me. And T'Challa says, then you agree to the ritual. You didn't answer my question. You first. And like that gets interrupted. I really like this, which is like, is there anything that could go wrong? And he goes, oh, of course not. In a worst case scenario, the Panther God could consume your immortal soul, but that's pretty unlikely. Well, shit. So anyways, they enter the spirit realm together, and Storm's powers don't work there. And then they are approached by the Panther God, and T'Challa tells her, remember, no fear. And I really like this dialogue. T'Challa, who is this you bring before me? T'Challa says, my bride. Bride? This mortal who claims divinity, the bride of a panther? Don't hold her accountable for what others claim her to be. I love her and need her to fulfill my destiny. Step aside. I will judge what she really is. And the Panther God looks into Storm's eyes, roars at her, sniffs her, and then licks her. And then sits up and he goes, I've made my judgment. Welcome, Aurora Monroe. And then they snap out of the spirit realm. And that's just, I don't know, it's a really neat, like, cerebral scene that's got like this otherworldliness to it, and I really, really enjoyed that. And then there's the after party, the wedding. Everyone's partying around. There's only one fight between Spider-Man and the man ape, um, which is surprising. Doctor Doom. They're opening wedding presents and gifts later, and Doctor Doom sends a hologram with a big speech about all the Civil War stuff, and he says, "Today, everything changes for you and for Wakanda. Your blessed union represents an unprecedented step whose currents will be felt by the world community. Traditional geopolitical alliances are shifting radically, old friendships are crumbling, the world is rapidly becoming a much more unpredictable place to live. I'm here to salute your union and urge that you consider one simple question as you look to the future. If friends aren't who they used to be, perhaps enemies aren't either. If you would at least consider a conversation, it might be worth a lot to both of us. My door is always open." I like that. I don't think it's ever gonna come up again. Maybe in the Civil War stuff. I don't know. That's the next volume. But like, for what it was worth, I enjoyed that. That Doom's kind of making him play like that and saying, "Hey, these heroes are not above the fray," and we're what 10, 20, 15 years after Civil War, and still dealing with all the same problems. So maybe Doom was onto something. So Latveria for the funny honeymoon? Not funny. None of it is. But those are troubles for another day as they go to bed together. That was sweet. I enjoyed it. It was really, it's a solid volume. It's a lot of fun. There's just a lot of like goofy silliness of what would it be like if superheroes got married? What would it be like if superheroes who one of them runs a country got married? And like I mentioned that scene with Xavier, and Hudlin is not unaware of the implications of this, because you got to remember the X-Men have kind of always stood for the oppressed. They've filled that role of the oppressed minority. And so Xavier talks to Aurora. "Aurora, you have been a princess, a goddess, and an X-Men, but the position you are about to assume trumps everything you've done before. Everything. Your marriage to T'Challa represents the highest profile union in the history of our coexistence on this planet. As of today, Aurora, you are the most important mutant in the world. As the Queen of Wakanda, you'll be the living symbol of human-mutant relationships. It's a role you were born to play." I like that. There's a lot of thought put into it, and then there's also just goofy, fun stuff that is that's like kind of silly to laugh at, like Storm and Katie Pride and Sue Storm are going shopping together for Storm's wedding dress. That's cool. Luke Cage is trying to set up Black Panther's bachelor party. Everyone's asking T'Challa and Storm about like what kind of ring did she get, and T'Challa's like, "Rings are not typically part of the Wakandan marriage ritual, but in anticipation of such questions," and they got her like a diamond with a panther cut on it, which is kind of neat. There's just like a lot of fun, neat stuff in here that's really enjoyable and shows that they're a good couple together. There's some sweet moments. There's some interesting thoughts going on. It's just a solid issue, guys. Or book. I'm enjoying the hell out of Hudlin's run overall. It's definitely got its problems, but I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Oh, whew.
That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.